The Frederick Douglass National Historic Site is the home of the 19th century abolitionist, orator, renowned civil rights pioneer, newspaper publisher, and presidential appointee, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey, also known as Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass lived in his mansion from 1877 to 1895. The Frederick Douglass National Historic Site Visitor Center is located on the same ground. Frederick Douglass National Historic Site is located in the oldest section of Washington, D.C., which is known as Anacostia, southeast Washington, D.C. The home is located across the river, which was known as the Eastern Branch River when Captain John Smith first sailed there in 1608. The Anacostia section is separated from the rest of Washington by the Anacostia River and a stretch of land known as Anacostia Park. Anacostia occupies 1/5 of the land in Washington and serves as a front line of defense for any foreign attacks. This is the reason there are two Air Force installations named Andrews and Bowlings Air Force bases located in Anacostia. Frederick Douglass, also known as the Sage of Anacostia, moved to Anacostia in 1877, after the Civil War in 1867. The Freedmen's Bureau was created to direct provisions, clothing, and fuel for the immediate and temporary shelter and supply of destitute and suffering refugees and the freed slaves. The Freedmen's Bureau purchased 375 acres of land in the Anacostia section known as Barrier Farms for the explicit purpose of selling the land to ex-slaves. In 1874, a former Civil War general and commissioner of the Freedmen's Bureau, Oliver Otis Howard, accused then-President Andrew Johnson of corrupting the Freedmen's Bureau. President Johnson made overtures to Frederick Douglass to become commissioner of the Freedmen's Bureau, and Frederick Douglass let it be known that he would not accept the position if offered. In 1874, Frederick Douglass was elected president of the Freedmen's Saving and Trust Company. The Freedmen's Bureau financed the establishment of 3 historic African American institutions of higher learning. They are Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, Hampton Institute in Hampton, Virginia, and Howard University in Washington, D.C. The Freedmen's Bureau was created in 1865 to implement a field order issued by Civil War General William Tecumseh Sherman. General Sherman did not believe in Negro equality and declined to employ colored troops in his armies. As a devout Catholic, General Sherman's religious views compelled him to oppose breaking the emancipated slaves' families. Field Order 15 allotted 400,000 acres of land confiscated from slave plantation owners in South Carolina to be given to approximately 18,000 freed slaves. To make allowances for the different sizes of the newly emancipated slave families, 400,000 acres of land was divided into 40-acre parcels. Field Order 15 did not include a mule, and it was later realized that 40 acres of land could not be farmed without a mule. The U.S. Army was ordered to lend a mule to every 40-acre parcel, thereby creating the phrase 40 acres and a mule. Following the assassination of Abraham Lincoln in 1865, President Andrew Johnson returned the confiscated land to the former slave owners and headed efforts by white Southerners to dismantle the Freedmen's Bureau in 1868. Frederick Douglass purchased his 14-room Victorian home in 1877 for $6,700. Frederick Douglass added 7 rooms, making the home a 21-room mansion. The mansion sits on top of 14 acres of land surrounded by cedar trees, which is the reason it was also known as Cedar Hill. Frederick Douglass, born a slave, served 5 U.S. presidents. Frederick Douglass served Abraham Lincoln as a Civil War recruitment officer, President Ruther B. Hayes as the U.S. Marshal for the District of Columbia, President James A. Garfield as the District of Columbia Recorder of Deeds, President Benjamin Harris as U.S. Minister to Haiti, and President Ulysses S. Grant as Secretary of Commission of Santo Domingo. His second wife, Helen Pitts, was responsible for organizing the Frederick Douglass Memorial and Historical Association in 1900 to preserve the home, which she viewed as important as George Washington's home in Mount Vernon, Virginia. In 1962, the National Park Service was given charge of the home to assure its preservation.